So, tonight, I'm actually supposed to be chilling. Well, I've been supposed to make one or two videos for the past couple of days, but I've been putting it off. Thank you to everybody that's been discovering this channel and that's been giving me views. So, to get right into it, so I was chilling. I was watching some skateboarding content, as you can see, and I was scrolling on my YouTube feed. And for some odd reason, YouTube showed me this black conservative raccoon talking about blacks can be racist too, making a literal 10-minute video with a American flag hat on. So the reason why I'm going over this video specifically is the same reason why I went over the Oklahoma University shit. Is because it seems like the Donald Trump administration and the more modern day conservative movement has created a society of grifters that is making their failures everybody else's problem. I'm really surprised that this guy posted this 3 days ago and only has 33 views. This is a person clearly trying to go viral by using their black skin to defend white supremacy. And there's a lot of money into that. Look what it's done for Candace Owens. Look what it's done for Jesse Lee Peterson. Look what it's done for Clarence Thomas and Tim Scott and Byron Donalds and so forth, so forth, so forth. The point being is that this is just something that I've noticed where these people failures become everybody else's problem. But it's even worse than that because not only is his failure everybody else's problem, he's going to promote policies that fuck it up for everybody. So let's get into it. It's only 10 minutes. Let's see what this guy has to say, this fucking coward.
You feel good and positive and happy after talking about some racist things? Let's think about it, people. So if we're going to talk about racism, instead of talking about what makes you angry about it, we should be talking about what can we do to stop it. So who's keeping it going? It's the people.
Yeah, like be more specific. White people and black conservative sellouts and their Hispanic, Indian, and Asian enablers, right? Like Lee, the guy that the Birdman made fun of. Oops, somebody got caught going up the wrong way. But yeah, the guy that the Birdman made fun of. So the point being is that, these people perpetuate racism by constantly defending it or trying to keep its memorabilia present, perpetuating its stereotypes, maligning complex political issues into black and white statements of don't do this, don't do that. And that's who's keeping racism going. But let's see what the fuck he has to say. He's going to try to blame black people, though.
Us. We're keeping it going.
How?
Now more than ever. It's African Americans who are keeping it going. You just don't want to admit it.
Be more specific. Be more specific. Be more specific.
We have turned into the most racist people in this country.
Against who?
Because of what lies you're believing and what you're constantly being showed as propaganda through media.
And this shit blows me, right? Because we have this idea where a lot of white supremacists and their enablers, like this guy, they try to say that black people are racist because we talk about racism, right? Which is, number one, gaslighting as hell. But let's analyze this further. Most black people don't care about what race that you are. They care about your political ideology, what stereotypes and political policies are you trying to perpetuate. And that's why black people go sideways on certain people, like you included, bro. So, black people not liking your opinions, proves that it's not about black people not liking whites. It's about black people not liking people, trying to take away their civil rights or gaslight us into complicity. But go off.
Believe it's still the white
fucking
man.
45 seconds, bro. Oh my fucking god.
Here, of course. That's just bad parenting because you have to teach that. Okay? You have to teach it. That's the only.
There's also a multifaceted system that rewards and props up white supremacist ideals. But I'm speaking in too much big words for this guy. This guy obviously, again, he's trying to get in on the fucking raccoon grift. Like Peel Boy made a good video about that. He obviously doesn't know what he's talking about. He has no media training. Before Turning Point or any of these other organizations, Daily Wire gets this guy, right? And he gets media training. If I was to debate this guy, how he is now, I would make him look stupid.
The way you grow up and you become that because you were taught. You don't believe me? Watch this video. Look at this video. Look at this video. This is a video back in my mom's day. Watch this video.
Elizabeth Eckford walked alone and met a mom.
And what's also ironic, I'm glad he brought this up, because during the civil rights era, we were constantly seeing pictures and videos in black and white. That's on purpose to make it seem like it was a long time ago. There's colored pictures and colored video of the events of the Civil Rights Act, the Vietnam War, and more. My mom was 6 when the Civil Rights Act was passed. People's parents and grandparents were alive. People's black uncles were serving, and dads were serving in the army to come back to a country that didn't respect them or see them as equal despite the sacrifices that they made. So this idea that racism was a long time ago is ridiculous, also by the fact these racist white people didn't just disappear. They didn't go away. Those people are still alive. You have 18-year-old neo-Nazis and Klan members and white citizen councilmen and more that were 18 in 1968 or 1972 that are still alive today in their 50s and 60s and so forth. So this idea that because the Civil Rights Act passed and it's like, this is even fitting with the argument that more direct and overt racist discrimination against black people was starting to take place once again. We're not going to even get into those stories. But this idea that it was a long time ago is ridiculous when you actually know, again, what the hell you're talking about.
Tell me your name, please. Are you going to go to school?
Now, after watching that, I said, Self, that looks real familiar for today. But it's reversed. Don't believe me?
Watch out of context. So this is the exact same thing. A bunch of white supremacist agitators going to a HBCU to harass black students, and the black students making fun of them. This is the biggest fucking gaslighting. It's because this is not happening because these guys are white. They are white supremacists on a HBCU campus trying to harass people and get gotcha moments off black people. And the black students and staff laughed at them and are escorting them off campus. Freaking obvious, bro. It's not the end of the world. To understand what's actually going on here. And it's literally, right? This clip is also funny because this is saying you won't let me come up here and be racist towards you and you're going to kick me out. That's the same thing that happened to Ruby Bridges. These motherfuckers, and not to mention the fact with this situation specifically, right? This happened right after the Charlie Kirk shit. So they didn't have a permit to set up or organize anything. They came up there unprompted and the police kicked them out. They're not even getting kicked out by the students, even though the students are around and I'm sure they want them gone. He has a police escort right behind him. What point is being made? Again, that guy, he hasn't had his media training yet. If he has a conversation with any other black person, right, that knows politics, history, or that keeps up with the news, they will make short work of him.
Please tell me the difference. If the first video, if that mob...
I already told you the difference, but I'll tell you again. So the first video was a mob of racist white people being racist for no reason. And the second video was a bunch of racist people going up to a HBCU without a permit to harass people and be racist, getting escorted out by the police because they didn't have a permit to be there. That's the difference. Ruby Bridges had a right to be in that school. Those clowns they literally did not have a right to be on that campus. They didn't have a permit. Because you have to go through a lot of like red tape and leeway when it comes to organizing these events. You don't just get these events and then you're just like, okay, these events are like, oh, you just have the events and then that's it. No, there's a multifaceted approach of clearance, knowing what the event is, organizing it with the staff members and what have you, that you have to go through when you're appearing on campus to do these debates. And those guys didn't go through the proper channels, so they got kicked out. It's that simple.
People were racist. In that video, it was a group of African American kids going to a mostly white school, if not an all white school. Look how many racist people were upset. Look how they verbally lashed out at that girl, saying things like unaliving, get out of here, and all.
So anyway, continuing.
All the racial slurs you could think of, right? But then in that second video, you saw the same thing.
I mean, you might be stupid enough to think that if you don't have context.
It was reversed. All because of a hat? Your black racism's not letting you believe that there was a time.
I mean, that's not racism. They don't like them not because they're white. It's because their political opinions are, often at a time, anti-black, white supremacist political opinions. They don't have to like them.
Time when America was great. I want you to follow me.
Here we go.
Because as I make these videos, I'm diving into that right now. I'm coming up with...
Because you just want a piece of the black conservative cookie, bro. It's kind of really obvious what you're doing. You probably don't like your 9-to-5 job. You probably have like a lot of bills and shit, which is piling up on all of us. But instead of persevering through it, voting better, and being smarter, you're choosing to sell yourself out in your community to tickle the ass hairs of racist white people. It's clear what you're doing. To anybody that knows how political commentary works, knows talking points, knows what to say, what not to say. You're literally wearing a hat with a little American flag on it. Your thumbnail is not even you. It's a little fucking Republican Party flag. People know what you're doing, bro. Like, we're not dumb.
All the facts of when this country was indeed great and we were okay together. But there's...
When in the fuck was that? Are you talking about during segregation and legal discrimination? Back in the fucking 50s and 60s? There was never any togetherness. There's not even togetherness today. And we never even really got close. Because no matter how much black people have progressed and shown ourselves to be just as capable, if not at times better, than some white people, racism continues. People continue to hold on to the same stereotypes. People continue to promote racist narratives. People continue to be extremely hateful. It does not, so like this idea that there was a time when we were together never existed. Because you literally just showed a video from the civil rights era, and you're showing a video of, the divide today, if you can call it that, because they weren't even kicked out because their political ideology or because they were white. They just didn't have a permit.
Powers that be, mainly Democrat, they
Here we
want
go.
slavery. They want it. They want it. And they need that division.
And this guy can't tell me, you know, first of all, I'm not going to waste my time having like a Marxist style working class analysis about the weaponization of racism and what it really exists for is to divide workers. But that's a whole nother topic that I'm not going to get into today. But when we look at slavery and its monuments and its flags and its memorabilia and its generals and its president and, you know, in a fucking, you know, the fucking, what do you call that shit? The, not the big lie, because that was with Adolf Hitler, but the Southern revisionism of what happened during the Civil War. All that is Republican shit now. You know, the Ku Klux Klan votes and supports Republican. Neo-Nazis often vote Republican. They don't like the Zionists in a party, but they'll vote for anybody who they feel are keeping down those pesky minorities or making the young white kids work at their businesses until they fucking drop dead. So this idea that, you know, we suddenly, you know, that, you know, Democrats are the ones propping up slavery because you want to pretend like you don't know about the Southern strategy and party switch is ridiculous.
Oh, they created so many things. They created so many things that perpetuate this idea of you against me because of the color of my skin. The dumbest.
But we can look at voting patterns, right? Because we see that most white people vote Republican. Republicans have anti-working class and anti-black policies. Not to mention the shit about women and LGBT people, and to feign ignorance about voting patterns and you know, and what would I call that shit? In emotional intelligence, to realize that you're perpetuating a system that's harming people that look different than you. You know, not noticing that it's kind of stupid. Kind of just saying.
Ideology you could believe, and look how many people believe it. Oh, you don't think that we've turned into the most racist people? Go look up statistics.
About what?
Y'all want to cry and scream all this stuff about who's unaliving who and who's doing harm to who. Go look up real facts. Since the 1900s to about 2023, the KKK were responsible for over 3,000 lynches.
Okay.
Racist people. When it comes.
Okay, first of all, you know, to break this down, if we're talking about racist killings of black people, right? It wasn't just the Ku Klux Klan. The Ku Klux Klan wasn't the only group in the North or the South that was killing and hunting down black people. And not everybody that killed or hunted down black people was associated with a certain organization. So before you get to the part where you try to say black people, you know, kill more black people, we know that it's called proximity crime. 80% of murders of a white person is done by, guess what? A white person. People that live in proximity to one another is more likely to commit violent crime against one another. And y'all bring up this black on black crime shit like it's fucking rocket science or something that we never heard before. I'm sorry to tell you, we've heard it before, bro. And everybody knows what you want to say.
The African Americans, we almost tripled that, guys. Unaliving each other.
See, listen to this.
Each.
And that'll be obvious, right? Because black people are more adjacent to each other. So when it was disputes in the neighborhood or black gangs fought each other, it was more likely that black people are going to kill other black people. And you could say the same for any other demographic, bro. People kill by proximity. So you saying that this shit about black on black murder is not something that's fucking rocket science. And then this is without saying that other races of people don't kill each other at all or something. Like, what's really being said here? Especially when every other race, especially white, have similar numbers throughout the same time period.
each other. And then you got people in these communities blaming it on white supremacy, man. You're making excuses.
I mean, not really, because when we look at the system of white supremacy in a way that is ingrained in society to make people fail, to make people nihilistic and to give up, to make people give in to drug abuse and gang violence, to perpetuate and people like you are worse than any gang member because you are using your black face to to promote the continuation of the same policies and practices that create the nihilistic situation where people join gangs and become criminals. So, you're no better, in this circumstance. And to make you even worse, right? Because you're not even trying to make your money by putting in work. You're making your money tap dancing. So, you black conservatives, hear me when I say that. You will always be worse.
You just don't want to admit the truth. You don't want to admit the truth that so many of us hate us. To an African American man that has that poor mindset, I'm a target.
And it's always, right? I hate to keep interrupting it because I only really want to go to 5 minutes of this video because I don't give a fuck about what the rest of it has to say because it's just talking point after talking point after talking point on the script at this point. But it's like, why is it when we talk about black civil rights and politics, right? And I guess other people can relate to what I'm saying, like gay people, trans people, Hispanic people, descendants of immigrants or what have you, Arabs, whatever. It's like, whenever people have political discussions about socio-political problems that specifically affect black people, for some reason that's always victim mentality instead of it just being an intelligent discussion. Not to mention, these two things I like to bring up to them is that black people that work hard and do all the right things still deal with racism. Just because you're black and you have a nice job and a nice car, you can be the fucking president. We had a black president who dealt with racism. Who is still dealing with racism till this fucking day. And he was one of the most polished and posh black men, most non-radical motherfuckers, the most capitalist, intermediate endorsing motherfuckers ever. And people were still racist to him. So it doesn't matter how black people present themselves or how hard we work. We still deal with the same racism. Not to mention all the shit that Harris had to deal with during her campaign. And number two, you can work hard and get yourself through the system while also having a healthy conversation about systemic racism. When people are saying things like, for instance, right, if you have a black sounding name, you're less likely to get called back. So people are saying, like, if you have a black sounding name, right, you're less likely to get called backs on, your job. Nobody is saying like, okay, give up. That's it. Move it on in. You shouldn't try to get a job at all. No, people are just saying like, hey, this is a statistical fact that black people deal with this issue in this way. This system exists in this way. Here's what we can do about it. And here's how we can change it policy wise. This needs to change on a social level. And it's all sorts of, different kinds of analysis of how black life is made difficult by white supremacy and its ideas and its policies and practices that this guy can't even fathom, right? He can't even fathom the complexity of these discussions, let alone him just fathoming the fact that you can talk about these issues while at the same time doing the best that you can in life. It's not like a mutually exclusive thing where if I'm talking about the Veil of Darkness study, that's not me saying, oh, you shouldn't even try to get a car, fuck it. That's saying that cops are racist and they pull over black people more than whites. Like, it's ridiculous, bro. Like, I'll keep going, maybe to the 6-minute mark, but this is like literally one of the, because we heard this shit before, but again, this guy's obviously, he's down on his luck. He's desperate, poor, and instead of just, slugging it out like the rest of us and holding on to his ideals, he's working on selling himself out.
I'm a target, just like a Caucasian. They're a target. I'm going to tell you how? Because when you're raised in poor mindset communities, you're taught by other poor mindset people. And what they teach you is...
What?
White people are the one that got all the money. White people are the one that got all the wealth. When you see a white person and they look like they're dressed like a homeless guy, don't be fooled. That white person got some money.
Just because we see, yeah, he's even making up his own stupid shit. Just because occasionally you see a working class or poor white person doesn't mean suddenly that white people don't hold a disproportionate amount of wealth and economic and social power in America. That's why the analysis of white supremacy, you know, as an ideology exists. And as it perpetuates itself in our system exists. And ironically, you know, if you want to come roundabout, right, a lot of white people are poor like that because they're white supremacists. The white supremacy, no matter on every economic level of how a white person might perpetuate it, or even some black people, doesn't disappear because they're poor. And I'm not saying all poor white people are white supremacists, but when we look at the voting records in poor rural areas or among working class white people, look at who they're throwing their votes to. And they're not voting Republican because they're wealthy. They're voting Republican because they're racist. And they want policies that they think is going to lift up white people and hold back everybody else. But, you know, the proof is in the pudding that those white people that are dealing with the same bills and stresses as black people, and even the ones that go homeless, go to show that that conservative way of thinking is not borne out in real life. So that's a counter argument that poor white people exist. Not an argument to say that white supremacy doesn't exist. Like, fucking stupid. Like really. Like, you have to know this. He knows this, but again, like I said, he's trying to just get in on it. But let me see what we got. 5 minutes. He got, what would that be? 52 more seconds of my time.
They just don't spend it like us. What kind of dumbass idea is that, man? And when you go look up those statistics, you will see African Americans unalive more Caucasians than Caucasians unaliving other Caucasians.
You just lied. He just literally just lied through his fucking teeth. Like, I'm done right here, bro. So look, when we look at data, right? When we look at data on crime statistics, right? We can look at that good old FBI table, right? Most murders against a white person, right, is done by another white person. 80%, right? 80% of murders against a white person is done by another white person. That leaves a margin of 20% of those murders to possibly be done by black people and other minorities too. So that's just a bold-faced fucking lie.
No, you just don't want to believe that because of your black racism. It is fact.
Oh, bro, God, I'm going to actually look it up. Like, yeah, I'm wasting my time, but I'm going to look it up my way. So 80%. Yeah, so there's the AI overview right there. Like, when we look at it, in the U.S., approximately 80 to 84% of white murder victims are killed by white offenders. This idea that... You know, that this idea that black people are like targeting white people or something like that is just a racist lie. Because this is the shit that pisses me off about racism, right? Among other things, too. So you have a lot of old racist white people, especially white women. And you're just like a black dude walking past them in 7-Eleven. And they're thinking in their head, oh my God, he was probably trying to get me. But then they go home to their husband, who actually kills them and puts them in a storage cellar and then helps the police look for her after he kills her for not making a steak correctly. So, you know, if he's going to be grimy as hell like that, I'm going to be a little grimy too. Because, you know, I don't know where we even go from here, but it's just like, I'm trying to give him to the 6-minute mark, but he's making it difficult to listen through this shit.
Do it more. We not only do it more to them, but we do it more to ourselves. You read all these books on slavery and racism and stuff, but you're not even taking any knowledge and putting it into your community. The first place you should be putting this knowledge is...
I mean, at this point, you're just lying. See, some of the stuff you said at first was at least like ahistorical or half truths. But we're to the section of the video where I'm just sitting back swinging in this chair because you're just lying. And, you know, ain't shit funny. And it's not even some shit I can make fun of either. Because you're just lying. And you should be ashamed of yourself. Especially if you call yourself a fucking Christian.
To your family. That's where it starts. Home. Put the knowledge there. Then it can spread out into your community. You don't even want to acknowledge that we hurt each other more than anybody else. Where African Americans hurt each other.
And then, you know, I guess we can end right here at the 6-minute mark, right? Because we can have a brief conversation about systemic racism. So when we look at gang violence again, this black conservative sellout piece of shit is worse than any gang member, worse than any gang member locked up in prison, worse than any felon, worse than, you know, all of those people, the Crips, the Bloods, whoever else in between. Because what he's doing right here is using his black face to perpetuate the same policies that lead to and enable these white supremacist policies. The over-policing of black communities, the school-to-prison pipeline, the divestment in black communities, the divestment in our infrastructure, the lack of government action to address black mental health. You know, all this stuff is perpetuated by people like this, and you cannot get any worse than him. This piece of shit that is making his clear failures in life everybody else's problems. In peace, I'm out. I gotta go to bed because, unlike some people, I have a real job.